What the problem is with standard belts? Usually you have to choose between too tight or the opposite, too loose. But with Anson Belt and Buckle, you don't have to choose. We got rid of the holes and instead have a track system designed for micro-adjustability. That way you can enjoy a perfect fit every time. Anson Belt and Buckle. Find your perfect fit today.
Having a corporate or charity golf event? Backswing Golf Events can supply your tournament with personable, professional golfers to entertain and fundraise on the golf course. They can accommodate any size group, whether it be 3 players to 500. They are your team. From range lessons, Beat the Pro, and Pro-Am style roaming, they're making lasting memories one swing at a time. So make sure to check out backswinggolfevents.com or call us direct at 661-316-3093 and book your pros now.
Good morning, everyone. Welcome to this great Saturday on Par with Amanda. We're going to bring in the Golf Father, and he's going to join us. Hello, sir.
Good morning, Amanda.
Good morning. So in the first segment, we were talking about a lot of pros and cons. So continuing with the pros and cons tradition,
Okay.
I came across, so there was an interview with Gary Player, whom I adore. I think he's great. But I also think that this particular interview took a turn I didn't see taking. So I definitely want your opinion, and we can talk about the pros and cons. So in an interview with Sportsmail, Gary Player started talking about which major championship he believed to be the best of the 4. So you've got the Open, the PGA, the Masters, and the US Open. So Gary says that the Masters is ranked number 4 in his book. It is the least of the 4. He feels that it's the least, I guess, caught up, so to speak. And I'll get more into that. But just initial reaction from you. I want to know why, how do you feel about these 4 events and why you think he would say that the Masters is probably the worst of the 4?
Maybe because the Masters is the best, the fun one, the good one, the jolly one. I maybe because he doesn't think it's taken the most seriously. Okay.
I agree with you in that. And that was kind of my thought when I was reading this article. So here's how he ranks them. He ranks the Open at number 1. I can see that. He's obviously the Open is his
course.
Yeah. The US Open number 2, which I was actually shocked that the US Open came 2. PGA number 3 and Augusta Masters 4. So when asked why, he says the Masters is the youngest of all 4 events. The others are steeped in tradition and history, and they still have a lot of catching up to do, the Masters. So you're kind of correct. I think he's from an era of golf that's very traditionalist, very like he said, it's enriched with history and the being. So he looks at the Masters as like the young pup. Even though in our eyes, I think that the Masters is
that's what everybody loves. The fans love,
and it's very traditional.
How many people are trying to get into a lottery to win tickets somewhere else?
I know, but I agree with you. I think it leans towards, in our eyes, we don't see it as being a party. We see Phoenix Open as being a party.
That's a party, waste management.
But to someone like Gary Player, who has played in these other majors and won 9 of them and, been through it. And during his era of golf, I think he looks at the Masters as the Phoenix Open of the majors.
You know what? one of the quotes that they had him in I don't know if it's the same place that you read, but they talk about, he goes, heck, the annual stroll down Magnolia Lane doesn't even make the top 3.
Wow.
I couldn't even imagine what he's talking. I mean, you know how many weeks up to that event everybody's pushing out new bags, new promos.
So I think
for that,
from his perspective of a golfer and the tradition and the feeling of how enriched with, just even the age of it. I just think that to him, I mean, clearly I expected him to pick the Open as number 1. That's his world.
Yeah.
And I don't blame him, but Pete, like, I get amazed that the US Open, he ranks higher than the Masters.
I don't know. Well, he says everything's based on tradition of golf and everything.
And the age.
So if it is, I mean, if it doesn't surprise me that who would be in his top spot, it would surprise me some of the other comments.
Right.
But
it's interesting because as I was reading this article, I was reflecting back. I've had the random privilege last minute of interviewing Gary Player and meeting him and getting to spend some time with him. And he's a gem. Let's start there. Love the man. Think he is but he doesn't sugarcoat things either. He's very matter of fact. He says what's on his mind, which I have to appreciate and I have to love. So then he rolls into, in the same interview, he said, speaking of the Masters, that Rory has to win the Grand Slam and he needs to do it sooner rather than later if he wants to cement a spot amongst the greatest players of all time. He's running out of time.
I don't believe so. But
he said he's got the best swing in the world by a mile, Gary Player says. I don't know if I agree with that.
Me neither.
He's won 4 majors, but none since 2014. I think he will win the Masters because the course is made for him. I think if he does that, he'll go down as one of the greats, but that's something he has to do. So now Gary is saying that unless you Grand Slam it, you're not considered a legend or a great in the game. But you have, let's say someone goes and wins 10 majors and does Gary then consider them a great, but they haven't won the myriad, the whole Grand Slam? Like, I don't know.
Yeah. It's funny because they also quoted him. His least favorite of the 4 was the one that all that stuff happened with his son.
Right.
We all remember that infamous day. And I believe his son is still banned from that tournament. And it's funny because we had his son on the show many, many moons ago, and we posted about it. And it was the first time Gary Player actually interacted, and it was the only with us. Big, and we thought it was a good thing because you go, oh my God, he responded, but it wasn't. It was him even before that incident, where his son got banned from that tournament and everything. Years before that, where we actually pulled down the show and everything because he went out and said, I have nothing to do with him and blah, blah. And he was just bashing the son. So it's kind of hard when, somebody tells you that. So they did bring that up as well, that he could be, a little bit bitter that they banned his son and everything over that whole.
So I wasn't expecting this, but I just got an email update on that same article.
Okay.
That now the title says Gary Player's son takes brutal swipe at father following the controversial Masters claim. So it goes in with you. So it says in a recent interview, Gary, it says, it's the youngest of the majors. They're steeped in tradition. He said, let's see, I'm trying to get Mark Player. He has stated on record that for the last 50 years, the Open, Masters, US Open, and PGA Championship a distant fourth was the correct order. Not sure why he suddenly changed his mind. I don't agree with this take, especially this week prior to Augusta. So see, and that's what I do remember. I'm telling you, I never remember, because Gary always talks about like what the best tournaments are. I've never seen him place the Masters number 4, and that's what his son is calling him out on.
How cool is that? Because that was Mark, his son Mark, not Wayne, right?
That's Mark, and then somebody wrote in a reply. I don't know who Golf Lover UK is. I don't think that's Gary Player.
No.
But he says, thanks for that, Mark. When things are ready for public consumption, I know many of us would love to understand. It feels like a shift has occurred with Gary recently, and being good, it would be good to understand. Yeah. Anyway, hopefully we'll get some more info on this. And
that's a big, that's a big red flag, when you have a shift, and like Amanda, you're my favorite golf woman, right? And then all of a sudden something happens, and now, Amanda's like my number 4 or 5, and now I start looking for stuff to talk negative.
That would let other people know that something must have happened.
Yes,
and
it did.
Change. Do you think Liv has anything to do with it? Because the Masters
he doesn't like he doesn't even like Liv.
I know.
He's bashed them.
And Liv is talking about giving a spot, like they're going back and forth and whatnot. Yeah. So maybe, I don't know. I just think it's interesting. But back to real quick before we have to go, Rory, so Gary Player has always said that you have to win 6 majors for him to consider you a superstar. He said, but nowadays everybody's a superstar, which I kind of agree with. Like, I get it. We have this, participation ribbon situation. Yep. But I don't know that winning a Grand Slam versus if I go win 10 majors, but none of them happen to be a Grand Slam, so I'm not worthy now, but I won more majors than you did. Like, I don't know.
Yeah, that's sort of like when Roger Maris hit 61 home runs and he got the asterisks because it was in one extra game of a season and blah, 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 and everything else.
He still did it, right?
He still did it. He still did. Are we going to have asterisks that everybody that won once Live Golf formed? Right. Do they get asterisks? Because like when Tony Finau came out of his slump and he was winning, what did people do? The first thing they did, oh no, he's not golfing better, is that he's golfing against less players and not as good as the ones that went to Live. Everybody makes an excuse, but you know what? If you win, you win. I don't care what the conditions, who's in the field. When it's your turn to win, it's your turn to win, and be happy with that. You're not going to rain on my parade.
Well, that is a great note to end on. I will keep you guys posted on Gary Player if we get any more insight. Bill, thanks for joining us as always. You at home, be safe and write into the show. A Robertson Golf on Instagram for me. And until next week, keep swinging for par.